VRAM has to be one of the hottest topics in this generation of GPUs. I mean, it single-handedly made the 50 series lineup look bad, but there might be a solution to this VRAM problem. So I was watching this video of Fabio Pisco from Ancient Gameplays on Direct Storage 1.4. And in that video, there were some interesting stuff to talk about. What Direct Storage basically does is that it will send data directly from an NVMe SSD to the GPU instead of sending it to the CPU for a faster access. And it is supposed to make the game loading times faster and optimize the VRAM usage of the GPU. After all, I do have a 5080 in my main setup, and I paired it with a 4K monitor, and at that resolution, the 16GB of VRAM is now starting to feel like the minimum requirement. A lot of games that uses ray tracing or path tracing can easily take up to 12 to 13 GB of VRAM when playing at 4K resolution. So I wanted to see how good this Direct Storage 1.4 is. And as soon as I started my testing, I was immediately greeted with a face of disappointment. And that is because the game support for Direct Storage is not the best. So I did some research, made a list of the games, and I did my testing. And here are the results. In some games like the Resident Evil Requiem, Black Flag Resynced, and the 007 First Light, I barely saw any differences at all. In fact, in the Resident Evil Requiem, the VRAM usage increased with the version 1.4, only by a small margin, and it could be ruled out as an error, but it was still disappointing. The Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced handles the VRAM usage quite well on its own. Here, it's running with the ultra-high settings plus extended ray tracing at 4K DLAA, FrameGen 2X, and with the Direct Storage 1.4, absolutely nothing changed. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart is another game where VRAM is heavily utilized, and after playing for about 2 hours, I could see the performance loss due to the lack of VRAM. And here with the version 1.4, you can almost see double the frame rate. For some reason, the VRAM numbers do not make sense here, as it is showing identical values for both before and after, but the FPS really shows the bigger picture here. I know, as of now, it must be looking very disappointing, because it is disappointing, but there was a result that stands out, and that is Pragmata, and in that game I saw up to 900 megabytes of VRAM saving, and that is a huge result. It did give me a slight of hope, but it was pointless, and that is because games that actually need this feature do not support it. Games like the Indiana Jones and the Great Circle that at 4K with path tracing can take more than 16 gigabytes of VRAM from your graphics card. Here I'm running this at 4K path tracing DLSS performance, and it is still taking about 15.8 gigabytes of VRAM on my RTX 5080. While recording this footage, Nvidia Shadowplay takes up additional VRAM, so you can see it is maxed out at 16, and that is why my FPS is tanked at 30 to 40 FPS. Usually I get around 70 to 90 FPS with the same settings at the same location. It's funny because this is 4K we are talking about, and even on 1440p resolution, there are games that could easily take up to 12 gigabytes of VRAM. And that brings us to the RTX 5070. When the prices are same or similar, no one recommends AMD over Nvidia. This is the sole exception where people tend to say go with something like a 9070 non-XT over a 5070 non-Ti. And that's all because of the 16 gigabytes of VRAM available on the 9070. So, does Direct Storage 1.4, is this actually a solution to the VRAM shortage? I think not. Nvidia is also working on its neural texture compression that helps reducing the VRAM usage, but as of now we do not have any real implementations of it. So, I really hope the next generation of GPUs should have 16 gigabytes of VRAM as a minimum in the lineup, instead of 8 gigabytes, and the cards like 5070 or the 9070, the mid-range cards, should have at least 18 to 20 gigabytes of VRAM available to them. As per how to install Direct Storage 1.4, you simply take these two files and copy it into your game's directory. I have pasted the exact link of the DLL files that can be found on the Ancient Gameplays videos as well.